Hey, do you remember that time that I had that one drink and it burned every bone in my body? Do you remember that?
The green spot.
The green spot where I could hear colors.
I do remember.
It was kind of like... He's trying to kill me. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
I think we need to make sure our viewers don't have that problem.
I like that. We should talk about it right after this. Welcome back. I'm Sherry.
I'm Chris Big Stick.
And we are
Bourbon Besties.
And right now, we're going to have a cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. What's in your glass?
What's in my glass is one of the bottles that didn't quite make our list, but it is the only Woodford Reserve offering that I can actually drink, and that is the Double Oaked.
Okay. In my glass is Angel's Envy, my first love. And tonight we're going to talk about 5 whiskeys. Let's narrow it down. Bourbons.
Yeah.
5 bourbons that we think new bourbon drinkers should try. One of the questions that a lot of people ask in groups that we're in and people who we know who are not necessarily bourbon lovers are, what should I try first? And we thought it would be fun to put together a list of, here's the 5 bourbons that we think you should try first. Now, this is based on Chris's palate and my palate, not necessarily on what's best for everybody in the whole wide world. And some people would argue that some of our choices maybe aren't the best ones, but they're ours, and we're going to present them to you now.
But guess what?
What?
They're wrong. Because I'm a professional. No, I'm kidding. So, yeah. So these are based off of what we think off of our palates. And, I mean, they may fall in for you. They may not. But, hey, this is our top 5 list.
So weirdly enough, on this list, what you'll find are some things that are not necessarily bourbons that we both love, but ones we think have a unique enough flavor or come along in the correct proof that people who are just getting into bourbon should try them out. What you will also find is that we tried to pick bourbons that stay in a lower price point. Now, there are plenty of bourbons that we probably would say, if you were coming to one of our bottle shares and you weren't necessarily a bourbon drinker, we would have chosen other options.
Right.
But if you're walking in the store and you have to front the money to try the bottles, these are the bottles that we think make sense to start with. So I'm going to let Chris go with what we believe should be the first bottle that you buy.
Whoa. See, that's not right. This, again, was not my choice because I don't like this one, but it is the Basil Hayden.
So the reason that Basil Hayden makes the list is because if you're just getting into bourbon, Basil Hayden is a great starter bourbon. It's a great starter bourbon because it's low proof. It is not super expensive. It's certainly not the cheapest option out there, but for what you're getting in its flavor profile, it has a very nice, very drinkable, very light. It's not Chris's favorite because it doesn't have a lot of flavor, which means it doesn't have a lot of burn. It doesn't have a lot of heat. It doesn't have a lot of how we started, which is, oh, this tastes like gasoline. Most people who start with Basil Hayden won't get that flavor note out of it. And it is an ease into it, start to get used to drinking bourbon type of bourbon. And that's the reason that it makes the list for our top 5.
That one is that 80 proof?
That is going to be an 80 proof bourbon.
So that is way below what I normally drink. But hey, sometimes low proof bourbons are good.
And that's case in point to kind of what we're talking about. When you're first getting into drinking bourbon, I wouldn't recommend that people go out and buy 130 proof bourbon. Most people are not from the get going to enjoy that. So most of the choices that we're going to talk about are going to be in that 100 to 101 proof.
Foreshadowing.
Correct. So our number 2 selection is going to be the reason that I am a bourbon drinker. So our second choice is going to be Angel's Envy. Angel's Envy is and will forever be my first love. It is the reason that I love bourbon. It is the drink that got me into drinking whiskey, really. I chose Angel's Envy over other selections because it does have a port wine finish. It does come in at an 86.6 proof, so it's going to be a lower proof, but it is going to be that barrel finish. So then as a beginning bourbon drinker, you're going to kind of get your first shot at what does a finished bourbon taste like? And do you like that? Do you like that port finish? So without something that's super high proof or super, super costly, you can kind of learn that about yourself and whether that's a profile that you're into. Some people would probably have swapped out my choice for 1792 small batch, which in my opinion is a decent bourbon. Some people get a flat Coke note on that particular bourbon and it kind of falls in the bucket of you love it or you don't. I happen to be on the side of I don't. So I'm going to pick Angel's Envy. And that's going to be our number 2 pick.
Of course you're going to pick Angel's Envy.
I did.
Yeah.
What would you like to say for number 3?
So our number 3 pick is, again, not one of my favorites. It's not a bad bourbon, don't get me wrong. It's just not one of my favorites. This is the Elijah Craig
Small batch.
Small batch.
Yes, it is. So again, we tried to choose different distilleries that have very unique and different profiles because as you're getting into bourbon, you should find out from the, kind of core distilleries, which ones do you like? Because if you like the Elijah Craig small batch, probably it's a nice evolution to then say, oh, I'm going to try the toasted barrel. And then at some point, maybe the barrel proofs and things like that. Most of the distilleries that we're talking about are going to have more than one offering. And if you like the first one, it'll be a good entree into knowing like, hey, I kind of like that profile. I'll probably like X, Y, or Z. That's the reason that we sort of picked from different places. And as a new drinker, it is good to kind of experience all of those different profiles and find out who do you like and who don't you like.
I mean, this kind of goes back to the whole thing about chasing verticals too. I mean, not just verticals, but sets and, same distillers. Like my thing with the 2XO. I'm going to chase every one of them because I love every one of them so far.
Agreed.
So, do you want to talk about number 4?
So I'm going to let Chris actually also talk about number 4.
Yes. This one is my favorite, what got me started in bourbon. And this is the Knob Creek 9. 100 proof of pure deliciousness.
And you can see this bottle is near empty.
Who drank all that?
Always backed up on our shelf because it is Chris's favorite.
Who drank all that?
This is what got Chris into bourbon. And again, Knob Creek having a very unique profile. It definitely has a very specific flavor. And there are going to be some people that are going to absolutely be Knob Creek drinkers. And there are going to be other people who not so much. In our house, we are Knob Creek fans.
And I don't think there's a Knob Creek that I don't own right now.
I think that might be true because
there's even the rye.
We just picked up the Knob Creek 10-year rye. So I think that might be true.
Who's becoming a rye guy now? Who would have thunk it?
Our number 5 selection is going to be Wild Turkey 101. So I chose the 101 because, again, I'm trying to pick from different distilleries. And to me, when you're looking at the Wild Turkey offerings, the baseline offering, maybe not going to go get myself some regular Wild Turkey. However, the 101 is a phenomenal pour. And I will say, in a blind, it will stand up against a lot of much more expensive, much higher end bourbons. And you would be surprised for its flavor profile, how really, really good Wild Turkey 101 is.
We're going to have to test that theory.
I think we should.
Wonder who the victim's going to be. Not meow.
I hope it's you.
Of course.
And I say that because I have kind of a weird relationship with Wild Turkey. Wild Turkey also makes Russell's Reserve, which I am not a fan of in any way. And it kind of doesn't make sense because every other Wild Turkey product I think I have ever had, I have really, really enjoyed, but not a fan of the Russell's brand. Okay, so to recap, our top 5 whiskey list for new bourbon drinkers.
5.
We did not say Woodford Reserve Double Oaked, and the reason that we omitted it from the list is because it is a price point of $67 on the bottle. For $67, it's a gamble. It's a very good bottle. It's got a really nice flavor to it. It's a bit sweet, and I would say to someone who was willing to gamble a little more money, Woodford Double Oaked is an excellent bourbon to start with. However, I probably would buy the other 5 ahead of it to see if I liked them and how I felt about them.
The Double Oaked, it hides a lot of the burn. So you're not going to get that burn. It is sweet. It does have, I mean, for lack of better terms, it does have that woody taste, but it's actually really good. Like I said, I think this is probably the only Woodford Reserve offering that I can actually drink. And it's a double oak. It's a really good bottle. I'm not going to lie to you.
So the Woodford is a 90 proof. And that one, like I said, did not make our top 5 list. However,
only because of the price.
Because of price. So our list will go from Basil Hayden, which comes in at 80 proof. And here in the state of Pennsylvania, where we are, MSRP is for $43. I'm not going to talk in the 99 cents. I'm going to round up.
I'm not going to pay $43 for it.
But. Okay, well, you don't have to.
No.
Angel's Envy is going to be an 86.6 proof. Right now in the state of Pennsylvania on sale for $53, regularly $55. And then the Elijah Craig small batch is going to be a 94 proof. Here in PA, that's a $35 bottle. Knob Creek 9.
It's 100 proof and comes in at $40.
Correct.
And the Wild Turkey 101 is, can you guess? Can you guess what proof the Wild Turkey 101 is?
I'm going to guess.
Go ahead.
101.
Yes! And you win the booby prize. And that comes in at $32.99?
No. Wild Turkey 101 is incredibly inexpensive, $27 bottle.
Wow.
So great bottle to give a try. We think that these are great selections for anybody who is new to give a shot. We'd love to know what bourbons would you recommend to a new bourbon drinker. And we'd also love to know if you like this content by any kind of comments you throw down in that little comment section down at the bottom. Love to hear from you guys there. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already.
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever else we decide to do. Who knows? I mean, who knows? We might have, what's that, X now or whatever it is. And with that, there's only one thing left to say, I think.
We are Bourbon Besties. And I don't know if you've had any bookers.
No, because somebody told me they were gross.
I didn't say they were gross. I just said that I'm not the biggest bookers fan.